Review today for October 17th, 2011, starting with general business. Anyone in the audience would like to address the board on an item not on the agenda, please step forward. Seeing no one, I'd bring that back to the board to open the minutes of October 3rd, 2011. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
First by Paul, second by? Second. By Chris. And on those minutes, do we have any comment before item 1? Item 1?
Mr. Chair, for item 1,
Yes.
under the
Chris?
second motion, number 3, it says provide tree specifications.
Yes.
I would like to add and planter after tree, so it says provide tree and planter specifications.
Okay, thanks. Any others on that? Okay, item 2. Item 3. Item 4. 5. Okay, all those in agreement with the minutes are reviewed, please say aye. Aye. Against, that those minutes carry. And then we'd like to review consent calendar for October 10th. Do you have a motion to open those, please?
So good, Mr. Chair.
First by Keith, second by Dawn.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
My name is Kathy Allen. I'm a new planner here for the city. And for October 10th, on the consent calendar was 612 West Mission Street, and that received project design approval and final approval with conditions. And that was the only item. Today's, we'll just do one at a time.
Okay, thanks very much. All those in agreement with those minutes, please say aye. Aye. That motion carries. Do I have a motion to open the October 17th consent calendar? None today? That's off the agenda then. Okay, that brings us to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items and appeals. Do we have anything from staff on those?
Nothing from staff.
Okay, thanks very much. Close that portion, bring back for subcommittee reports. I don't think we have any. And that brings us to the end of general business. And the first item of the evening, 3849 State Street. Please step right up.
All right.
Oh, you could pull those chairs in front here. We didn't mean for you to stand. Okay, while you set up, I'm just going to read this for the benefit of the board. Continued indefinitely to full board, study the elevation and building breakups as they relate to the tenant lease lines, study the trellis posts and their relationship to the tenant lease lines, consider the trellis in relation to future sign placement, provide a roof plan showing how far the parapets return back on the roof. Provide all elevations and a section through the building showing existing mechanical equipment and proposed parapet heights. Okay.
I'm Richard Benson with Benson and Bowl Architects.
Thank you. All right. Go right ahead.
Actually, can I use the set I brought up with me?
Is that the same set as here?
Pretty much, but yeah, we'll use this set.
If it's the same set, you could use it. And if there are changes, is that
You just have to document them.
you have to document them and give them.
Okay, we can work with what we've got here.
Okay.
So I think the place to start, and the first comment, I'll just go in order of the comments that we received on October 3rd. Okay. And I believe we responded to all of those comments. As you recall, the portion that we're asking approval for to go to the next step is about 150 feet of the building. This portion of the building where the tower is has already been built It's part of the design. So we're looking at the rest of it. One of the comments was, and it actually was a good comment, was that the storefront up above needed to relate better to what was below. In particular, the See's Candy Store was divided by the parapet up above. We've extended that. What that does is it gives you about 2 equal pieces, which we think looks fine, actually. And we've also adjusted the trellis spacing here, the posts, so that they relate better to the 2 small tenants that are underneath the facade at that location. We are going to be having hanging signs. I've got a detail of that if you'd like to see it. And then we addressed the rear of the building as well, which you see down below. I have pictures, which I'd like to show you, of the rear of the building. That show the coverage of the existing podocarpus trees that are in place. So what we're proposing is a fairly simple fix to that in case these die are removed. Basically, we're going to extend a plaster wall and infill in between with lattice, cedar lattice, as a screen, which brings it up to the same screening that we have on the opposite side. We'd be plastering these pilasters all the way down, but leaving the slump block in between as it is, and perhaps planting vines down at the base of that. So given the fact that this is screened the way it seems to be, and this is a view from State Street at the backside, or actually that's not, this is. This is what you see from State Street, and it's pretty densely planted. We think that's a reasonable approach to the screening, and it does effectively come to the top of the mechanical equipment beyond that. So that's our suggestion for the rear elevation. We've made the adjustments in the front. We also have added planting areas in various locations, allowing for people to pass through, and also allowing for more seating areas in places. But we have added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in-grade planters in addition to whatever potted plants we put in there. Another issue was the extension of the parapet and how far that returns. Previously, we showed an 8-foot return on that. We've increased that to 16 feet, and that shows up in the perspectives that I'm about to show you. The view from State Street of this building is this view right here, and this, in fact, is taken from the top of a Google Earth truck, so it's about 10 feet high. You can see how much lower your point of view really is from a car. So this, the parapet beyond this is really not visible from that location. I think as you get closer, you can see that that is the case. Because the differential here is so little. There's just a couple foot differential. Then this is back from the edge of this, so you really won't see that at all. Another comment that we're responding to, and I think what I'll do is I'll skip to the next page, which is perspective view. Which illustrates the change to the storefront here, our proposal for the signage, which again, as we understand, is a separate submittal, but we wanted to at least have a concept for that, so that the wood hanging signs that hang off the trellis itself, one of the comments we received last time was that the corbel looked perhaps Asian. We've adjusted that and revised how the lighting and the signage work in concert with that. We're still proposing wood posts and wood members. Looks similar to another project example that I have here. This is the lattice, by the way. Prepared these additional views as well in model form. The point with this, we are not asking for approval of this building. This is going to be separate and will be the responsibility of Panera Bread. But the rear elevation with the screening would look similar to that. And here's just a couple of other views from the model that we prepared. The components are not fully detailed, but we're looking at the cornice detailing following in spirit with what we did in this first building here. We are going to have extended corbels and with the first building, as you see here, and then we're referencing this sort of form for these corbels down here. And we don't intend to do it exactly that way, but that's the spirit of these designs. And then finally, the example of the change that we're proposing for the trellis is to revise the details, something like that, along with the signs changed as well.
Oh, with wood post.
But still with wood posts, yes. Yes, rather than the precast that's shown there. Here's another picture of that particular building. We did another location. So I'm really referencing that piece of it there. In conclusion, I think we've responded to each of the comments that we received, and given the fact that the back of the building is pretty well screened by the podocarpus, we've still acknowledged that it needs to stand alone, and I think we've got a reasonable response to that. We've demonstrated, I think, with the perspective views and also the photographs that you're not going to see the returns on the parapets other than what you see in the perspective here. This represents a 16-foot return. And we will be refining the details, of course, with the next level, but in concept, I think it begins to work pretty well for us.
Okay. Do you have a roof plan, by the way?
Yes, we do. It's in the set. Actually, that might be the piece we... We had been indicating that just as a dashed line above the plan previously, but I think you did ask for a rough plan, so...
That's the return there.
That's the return there. And these are actually the views in proportion of what you'd see from State Street, for instance, in that view, and this is in front of Vaughn's.
Looks so little. With nothing around it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. With that, I'll see if there's... do we have any public comment? No? I'll bring that back to the board for questions then from the board. Gary?
Yeah, on the roof plan, is there, does that include? Is this 16-foot wings that come back, is that on the north end as well? I'm not seeing that on a plan, on the roof plan.
No, we're not returning it on the north end. And as I said, there's only a 2-foot differential. And if you can see from this view from State Street, if we returned it, you wouldn't see it anyway. So this is the view from State Street. In fact, that's an elevated view because cars are probably 6 feet below that point of view. And you can see what you do see.
Okay, that's my only question.
That's it? No Keith? Dawn?
Yeah, I had just a couple small ones. On the elevation, this elevation, what are these? This was the existing slumpstone wall. What are these lines and these little inset lines? And then what's that line there, that horizontal line?
The existing condition, I've got photographs of that if you'd like to look at those. This is a slump block below. This is currently, it's just precision block up to this point here. And this is precision block with an inset in the middle of it. What we're proposing is that we're going to put a skim coat of plaster over that and extend that so we don't just have a continuous redwood lattice screed or cedar.
Right, I understand that part.
So we're extending this. So this will match. It'll be plaster all the way down these columns, and this will be plastered up above too. We're using.
Will that
this
line really be
existing-
there?
No, it probably won't once it's plastered.
I'm only asking because I just wanted to know what's in plane and what's not in plane. And then this is showing a change in plane. So if you're, maybe the photo would help me.
Yeah,
See the other
it
photo.
doesn't really represent a change in plane. This is set back from this. This plane will be in the same plane. You know, I don't know that we're going to need anything there.
And it'll all
Way
be
to
plastered,
screed.
so there won't be a real line.
Not really. If anything, there might be something, because if we've got a frame wall above and it's attached to the block, it may crack at that point, so we may have a very thin, screed or something like that, but nothing that's meant to be visible. Should all be.
So that's not
open.
really there.
No.
And then my other question was, on the front elevation, on one of the renderings, you show the beams that come back to the building kind of sitting on a trim, plaster trim, but here it looks like the trim is way below and not in line with any of the trellis members. So here you show the plaster, and then you show this kind of horizontal projection of trim. But then if you see that one rendering, it looks like it's making sense in terms of where the trellis dies into it, but not on the elevation drawing.
The detail followed this drawing, and the detail is correct. It will be sitting on top of that piece on that boarding.
So this is supposed to be, this line right here is supposed to be the line of the top of the,
Exactly.
but that doesn't
Yeah.
follow any line of the trellis.
Well, this
It's halfway,
this line should,
halfway down.
in fact, sit right here.
so that line just needs to be drawn up a
But
little higher.
it needs to be moved up about 4 inches.
Yeah, because these die into it. Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's exactly
Okay,
right.
no more
And I
questions.
think the detail is meant to clarify that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Paul?
Couple of quick questions. Are you aware of any construction that's happening on the back side of the building that we are proposing this trellis and such? Are you aware of any construction that's happening on the back?
I just turned it on, I'm sorry. I was there over the weekend on a totally unrelated thing, and this is the back side of the trellis. Okay, I guess I'll show it to you first. There's a fire sprinkler pipe that's being installed, and I just want the board to be aware of that and how the impacts of that on the construction of what you're proposing here. Just so that we're all on the same page, I think because we're doing a TI, the new fire code, the new building code requires all the buildings be fire sprinklered. Oops, I'm sorry, now we lost it. So that's what triggered this pipe that's being put across here. And because it was a TI, it didn't get design review, but now we're doing the front side, so we should address that. It's not to penalize you at this point, it's just to make the board all aware, but then other people can see the way that precision block was going up like he was talking about.
That's actually good news. I mean, not good news, but
Okay.
Not good news.
not
That
good
is
news.
not
but
good news.
The other question I wanted to ask was the bus stop and the benches. Do you know where that happens in relationship to the planters that are being proposed? I know we looked at it in photographs, and remember we saw the bus stop sign, and we happen as a family go to Panda a lot, and we always see people waiting at the bus stop, so I wanted to make sure that that relationship is being maintained.
There, bus stop's right here.
So the
It's right,
so-
right before the
corner?
curve.
Yeah, it's right before it starts turning around. It's right up in here.
And so that's where
you
the
have a
bench is.
Right here.
So the bench is
Bench is right here, and then you have the bus stops right there.
okay. I
Right
just
where this cuts back.
okay. Cool.
Trey, did you want to comment on the sprinkler line?
Well, no, but you're exactly right because of the TI, the fire department required the whole building to be sprinkler. That's the reason for that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the west elevation, you're showing vines on the exposed CMU walls. It looks to me like from the photo that they are not existing, so you're proposing vines?
Actually, I should say, we've got to clarify, the ownership there. The property line is very close to the wall at that location.
Okay.
I mean, there is already planting there, there's already irrigation, but it may be on the neighbor's property. Or we would like to add vines.
I see. Okay. I didn't see any planters or vine pockets called out. That's why I was asking, at least on the plan. So if you do end up heading down that road, you might show the location of those planters. The next question was the crosswalk. I assume that it's shown at the location that it currently exists.
That's correct.
Okay. That's it for questions. Thanks.
Okay. I had some questions. First is that, did you consider any other materials other than this wood lattice on the roof for the screening?
Well, we considered different forms of the lattice, but we thought that was a reasonable response. I mean, it seemed excessive given the screening that's there to put a complete plaster wall all the way across that. And we think we can make that look good, and especially when it's interrupted as it is by the plaster columns. So that was the approach we wanted to take. The exact form of the lattice, whether it's vertical and horizontal or at a 45, is the sort of thing that we would expect to detail next time around.
Okay. All right. You had another, I think it was a 3D perspective of this corner here. So what we will have here is there's a beam or there's a plaster rib that goes down like that, right?
Exactly. The detail that you see here.
And this connection here exists already, that connection.
Yes.
So the parts that are being added are these columns here outside with this bulb out that comes above it, right? These are being added right now. These will be added.
No, those are actually
exist?
part of the storefront here. No,
They exist already. So
yeah,
the only
and
thing
in
that's
fact,
added is just this bump, is this thing here.
in that location. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that divides
Going
the
all the
existing
way along.
storefront. It goes
Going all the way along. That's
Yeah.
the part that's being added. This part
Right.
here.
Right.
But this goes right down and turns like that, right?
And returns like that.
Right. Okay. And then, and I guess my last question is that, and what is to be done about the fire sprinkler line that's there now?
Well, I wasn't really aware of it, so I've got to figure that one out. It's going to have to be, I mean, in case somehow, but they have to get to it as well, so that might be somewhat problematic, but we'll come up with a solution at the next level of detail.
Okay, because we'd like to know what's going to happen with that as part of this, looking at the whole back to front of these buildings. That's one of the items that we need to look at, especially as that's probably a violation right now, to be able to do it without a permit on the outside of the building like that. So, okay, that's it for questions. I bring back to the board for comments. Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like the addition of the in-grade planters, and and how you've broken up the building, the two sections of the buildings, works a lot better for me. I would like to see some return on the north end. I might be the only one on this, but I still think that you can still see it. I still think it looks like a fake wall right in front. And I don't think you have to go back 16 feet, but I still think there should be a return. The fire sprinkler on the rear, I can't see that that is a acceptable solution for running that line. It either needs to be run on the parapet roof or needs to be suspended in between in the building itself. I can't support it being hung exterior on that wall. And the lattice work, I am not in favor of the lattice work. I think that as you approach that parking, lattice falls apart. It's not a very long-lasting solution to a screen, and I feel like it doesn't look good with this building. So I wouldn't be in support of using wood lattice screening for the parapet. I would look to other solutions, other more permanent solutions. And I think Paul's picture shows clearly that if you're driving up and you're parking there and you're looking at the canopy of the trees, you can see that there's open spaces. Even your drawing shows open spaces of where we're going to see that lattice work. So I would prefer that you don't use that. That's it.
Thanks. Thanks, Gary. Keith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think overall the applicants responded really positively to the comments. As far as the lattice, I think it's a pretty minor view to the public on that facade, so I don't know. I sympathize that it shouldn't be this kind of involved detail there, and perhaps it's just the material and color that kind of make it go away, but I think the lattice is fine there, but I'd kind of leave that to the applicant to detail, but I think we're ready to move this to the next stage. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Dawn?
I agree with Keith for the most part, and just had a couple extra things to add. That I don't think that, if I'm not mistaken, the rooftop equipment, except for the one bigger, taller unit that's more toward, if you're looking at that rear elevation, it's more on this end. You may find that the smaller units that are more on the other side of the building would require you to not have any kind of screening at all on here. Did you look at that as an option? If you go back to the section right here, and if you look at your roof plan, the one that I was looking at, these units are all the ones that run down the building, and this is the only one that's the one down here. Is that correct?
That is correct, and there's actually a screen around that.
Yeah, so I don't see why you need it at all. If you can't see it, you don't have to screen it. If it's not seen from view, you don't have to screen it. So we request screens on equipment that's visible. If you can prove it's not visible, it doesn't require a screen. So you may find that you don't even need it, except for screening this unit, and then, in my opinion, you could do that with lattice, just if it's not already there. Let me just finish, and then you can maybe get to talk after everybody's done with their comments. I think this is fine. It looks a little tall for some reason, but maybe it's just me, but I think it's okay. It's not. These look a little like they're extending. It's not even this view. It was some other perspective that I saw. Just they looked a little tall, like they were coming up, swooping up, just a little taller than I would do it. And if you can see this return, if you can see it, I'd say return it a little bit, and just maybe a few feet. I don't think that if you can see it. Otherwise, If you can't see it at all, then I don't see, I mean, you're going to have to return that cornering because it's a molding anyway, probably, but I don't see the need to return it all the way back. And I haven't been on the whole time. No, I guess my light is just doing weird things. So I guess they can hear me. I'm not saying anything. I don't think we ever would have approved this fire sprinkler running through the back of the building, so I don't know if that's your problem or the building owner's issue. It's not really your issue.
Well, I think it may be now.
But it might be now, and if you just show it to be removed, then you're done with us on that one. If you can, because I don't think there's really going to be a good way to cover it up. It's right in the middle of the Flintstone. It's not at a place where you can add plaster around it or anything. I don't know. I don't see a solution for that. So.
Paul?
Overall, my comments are going to be minor. I apologize for this fire sprinkler stuff, but it's pretty darn obvious right now, and it does need to be addressed. It's not your problem. We shouldn't stop you on your next stage of this project, but we'll make it a comment that when you come back the next time that gets addressed one way or the other. The comments having to deal with the architecture, I don't have a problem with the screen. I have a problem with the material of wood. And so if the screening material was a metal and it was painted to be some color, and maybe if there was a stronger horizontal top rail to it, it would look more substantial, and we know you'll get 10 years out of it, because with a wooden screen, the likelihood of it being like it is 5 years from now is pretty darn slim. So the solution you have, to me, fine, needs refinement in the material and color. I also like the idea that you're screening the entire elevation, because future TIs will now take advantage of that extra height. And it's true, you don't have to have the whole thing screened, but then as soon as somebody goes in where the suntan place used to be and they want to do a rooftop, then you have to address it at that point. So from the building owner, to have the entire thing screened makes logical sense at this time. Awning-wise, can we go to the main elevation? This is a minor point, but I'm just looking at the way that these awnings are laid out, and it just looks a little funky. And all I'll say is the awnings need to get addressed, but a solution would be is maybe have just one awning over See's Candy that relates to the door, move the lettering over so that this reads as an elevation, and drop these two sides. And then over here, I'll let you be creative and come up with something, but right now the spacing of the awnings and the mullions and everything just looks a little bit awkward, and leave it at that. And then the last point is to make sure that all of the bus information is shown, because I see a lot of pedestrians there, and it just needs to be incorporated with your landscape plan. But other than that, I like the direction it's going.
Thanks, Paul. Chris?
Thank you. I agree with Paul's comments. I think we were discussing the awning issue, and I think centering that over the doorway would really help, and maybe stretch it out a little bit too. It doesn't have to be so thin. But and then as far as the lattice goes, I'm worried also about the longevity of the material. So for what, I won't go into that. I think my other colleagues here have commented enough on that one. I do appreciate the addition of the planters here. I think that's going to really help. It's such a stark area to begin with, and so this is much appreciated. I'm looking at this. It's 1, 2, 3, and all the same size and equidistant. And for some reason I want to stretch this one out a little bit and make that a little bit longer. You still have. I think it's a real safety issue. Actually, you have, instead of being able to walk out anywhere from any of these store, you sort of concentrate the flow into certain areas. But just again, a minor suggestion. It seems that just to throw that off a little bit and not make it so symmetrical. But that's all I have. Other than that, I think it looks good.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I agree that this corner here needs to return probably at least so that you can get maybe 2 of these things, because that shape on the end is going to be very odd to do if it's just the thickness of the wall, to continue that around the corner. If you flip this around the corner and the wall is only half of that arc, it just looks really odd. So you need to really turn this around so you can get at least, you know, 2 of these or one full one that makes a corner. I would suggest that you get 2 of these before you end it.
Something like that.
Yeah, right. The other is, I think you have to address it's unfortunate, but I think you have to address the fire sprinklers. On the lattice work, I agree. I just do not think that the wood is appropriate up there, and I would like to see a metal or some other material that would be more in keeping with the architectural integrity of the building. So I would be more for you changing the material of that. And with that, I had a question. You know, no one really mentioned it, but you talked of plastering these columns and making them a different color. You're thinking these would be...
I was thinking they'd be white.
They'd be white. And my question to you is that something that we would want to see at this point? And I'm kind of asking the board that, whereas right now it has a very monolithic color across, because these actually have a fairly deep shadow line, and they have a groove in it, so they have some distinction already. I'm wondering if these things were white, if it just wouldn't look more odd than it is now. It's just a thought that came to me, whether or not we would maybe want to keep it all the one color. And I'm not sure. I think probably both could work, but it's just something that came up to me, and I think that's something we'll have to flesh out by the time we get to the end of the process. You know, I agree with Paul a little bit on these awnings here. I'm not sure how easy it is to do that, but I noticed you have this bay looks to be the same bay as this bay does, and so if this entry were like right there, and then that bay, you know, so you're getting some symmetry in this one, and then maybe there's another one over here that's about the same size or just its odd size. It just seems odd that this thing splits right there like that. So I'd like to see, I'd prefer to see that you could look at that a little bit more closely. I mean, it's even across here. And then in one of your elevations, you show this rib here, but in that other elevation, or this one back here, we don't see it here. And is there a reason for that?
It's intended to be there.
Oh, it's okay. So
Yeah.
it is there.
There were, we submitted this, we actually caught a few of the things you've mentioned.
Okay.
Added the molding there. We actually respaced these somewhat too, because this looked odd to us as well.
Oh, so you actually have kind of gone in that direction.
Somewhat,
Okay, so
yeah.
that would be good when you come back. And then my last thought is there something better that can be done here in this this planter that you've done here with this point that's coming there? I'd like to see if you could. I don't know what it could be, but it just seems a little odd to me that it just comes to that point like that. I mean, if I look at this planter here from just the way it's done like that, it really looks like it's not planned from the original, you know, like it's an after what was left over kind of thing, and that's how we got that space.
These corners never really work anyway, because you can't grow anything in them, and
Right,
you can't
right.
irrigate them, so we'll have to figure something out.
If you could look at
Yep.
that and,
Yep.
and okay, other than that, I think that the direction you've taken seems to be working, and I think we're okay for a motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I'll make a motion for project design approval with the the comments to eliminate or provide a solution for the exposed fire sprinklers. Resolve the awning breakup locations. Return the north parapet if visible. And the fourth comment, either remove the roof screening on the west elevation if not required, or provide an alternative solution with different materiality.
Okay, do we have a, that's it? Oh,
And then, and then the only last thing is study the proposed colors on the west elevation. Depending on how you deal with the screening issue, study the colors. That's
There
it.
may be a, sorry, let me, okay, that's it. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Second, Keith.
Chair, under discussion, just to add, consider the shape or layout of the northernmost planter and consider extending the adjacent planter to the south.
Okay, thanks. Under discussion, if I could, I don't know how quite to say this, but the resolution of this material, whatever this is, that finish and what they do with this is something that's still up in the air. And do we want to leave that for consent to, or give any direction between the two, Jamaica and...
I think we can leave it to consent. I mean, we're spending a lot of time looking at it, but it's a really minor view, and it's hidden by landscape, and
And it may not be required if they...
it may not be required, so I think we're safe in looking at it in the next go-around.
Mr. Chair, I've got a couple comments. One of them is that if we can ask the applicant to show the bus stop and the bus stop improvements such as the bench on the site plan. This second item just faded from my memory. Oh, the corner returning of the wall. You said if necessary to return.
If visible.
If visible. The applicant here is basically saying it's not visible, and he's not going to be extending it around the corner because that's what his presentation was today. I would rather see it, have him return it a minimum of 4 feet and longer if visible, so that he either has a direction to return the corner so that he can finish the molding, and it has to go a certain distance and then it can be dropped off. Just otherwise, there could be the possibility that it's not returned at all.
And I agree with
Under
that.
discussion, to the maker of the motion, that the applicant to provide a minimal return on the north portion of the parapet to terminate the molding.
I'm okay with that.
All right, you don't want to say a dimension 3 to 4 feet, leave it open? Okay. Then totally a different topic just for discussion. The back he was planning on doing white pilasters. I mean, there is a possibility that he could go with a tan or a putty or, potato color. If that's the direction they're going, they don't have to go with the white in contrast to the exposed slump block. So there's options of color.
I just don't know why that side of the building is painted a different color than the front is anyway.
I don't know either.
The whole building should be painted really just one color. I don't see how you'd make a transition between one side and the other side of the corner.
Show us his color
That's why I just said
materials
bring
for
colors
when
in,
he comes
bring
back,
proposed.
but let's let him
Because
move
somebody
ahead.
who's on consent can deal with that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my motion may not pass. But
Okay, so we have motion on the table. Under discussion, any other items? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
I
Okay, I'm against.
Any reason?
I think we should have the screening in the top here. I don't think it should be left as an option. That's the only thing for me. I think it should. I think they should have the screening.
She said to have the screening. However, the only thing she said was if necessary. So for him to prove that it's not necessary, and given the height of the equipment that's shown on the section, it's necessary.
I think new air conditioning equipment is going to come. You see, once this is approved, nobody's going to make any more exterior changes, and then people are going to put air conditioning equipment in when the new people move in, and they're going to probably be bigger in different locations. And so I just felt like it just needed to be there. Instead of doing it individually, everybody, just screening one by one. But the motion passes, so you're good to go. Okay, that's it. Thanks very much.
We think there's going to be a pair. We think we're going to put screening there anyway. It's just a matter of the
So is it back to consent?
Yeah, I'd like to clarify that and send this on to consent, if that's okay with everybody else. We kind of talked about that.
Okay, good to go. Thanks very much.
Do you need to keep these?
No, if these weren't shown to staff already, or if they
Previously?
don't have a copy of it, then they need to have a copy.
Okay.
If you don't mind, yeah. And anything you show that they don't have a copy of.
Yeah, you're welcome to all of this. These
Okay.
are just photographs for the most part.
So that brings us to the second item of the evening, 101 North Salina Street. Yeah. Ooh. I thought we were going to get out of here quickly. Hi. Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, if you could state your name for the record and then make your presentation. Because this is a new item we haven't heard. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Bree Medley. I'm representing the owner, Jennifer Checchio. The project itself is located at 101 North Salinas. What we are proposing to do is, currently there is very little parking associated with this property. We have one sort of covered space, and that's about it. So there's a need for some covered parking. So what we're doing is proposing a two-car garage with a accessory dwelling unit above, both of which are 540 square feet. What we will be doing beyond that is rebuilding what is an existing carport, which is right here, but it will not be used as a carport. It will just be rebuilt as a deck for the house.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So locate everyone, yeah.
Do you
No,
need
you
an
put
extra
this-
copy?
Or if you have extra copies, pass them down and show them here. Show the ones that here.
Okay.
Give them those.
So it's located on the corner of Mason and Salinas. It's got two front yard setbacks as a result. This is right here's the view from Mason Street, and then the view right down the southwest property line. You can see the existing neighbor's house. This is the area that we're proposing the garage and accessory dwelling unit. This runs down this property line right through here. This is the front of the building itself. Due to the sloping of the lot, it's a single story on the side from Salinas Street, and then it drops down to about 1 3/4 stories as you're going down Mason. This is the rear, where we've got currently the existing carport, which is approximately 10 by 10, thusly not really acting as a true covered parking spot. And then an additional view from Mason Street.
I'm confused too, and I don't know why.
Yeah. So
Okay, so this view right here is this way, that's correct.
And the land drops down.
Drops down this way, that's correct.
Okay.
This view right here is looking over here.
Okay.
On this side.
So, okay, that's some kind of land dropping down that way.
That's
Okay.
correct. So you're seeing also the fence that's on this side, on this property's line going
Right.
down.
Here.
Yes.
Right.
This is right there.
That is
Okay.
correct. This right here is the view looking towards the house that's there and the
Right.
existing carport.
Okay, got it.
This view and backwards, is actually looking this way. And then when you're looking at these guys, also same view. This is looking right here at the existing house, and this view is looking right at the area that we're proposing to put the garage. So it's looking directly right here.
This is a proposed garage?
Yes.
That's what this is here?
This area right there.
Oh, you put the garage right here?
Yes, that's correct. That's the
Okay.
neighboring house. The yellow is the neighboring house.
Okay. All right. So cars come down here right now?
That's
Get
correct.
in here?
There's
They come down this driveway?
No,
here?
no. That's looking, so you're looking at this side, so that the driveway comes off of Mason Street. It's a really small.
It comes down here. I see. You go through these gates, these blue gates?
No, it's a secondary weird driveway that exists that goes to nothing.
This seems to be right in front of, do you see those steps going up there? You see those steps there? That looks like these
Oh yeah, I'm
steps
sorry.
right there.
I was looking at the other. I was looking at this guy right
So
here.
this driveway right here?
Yes, that's
looks
correct.
like there's a gate right here.
That is correct.
Okay,
We're going to be removing that driveway.
I see.
And you're putting a driveway where?
We're just extending this existing driveway. So there's two driveways that exist in space
That's
currently.
the other one here?
Yes.
That's the one you're extending?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And
Okay.
you're building a new garage, and you're building, you said, another dwelling unit?
Yes. A 540 square foot accessory residential unit.
And then you're building something here?
This is the carport that's there existing. We would just rebuild it as a deck for the house itself.
We're in the R2 zone, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But you haven't got any comments back yet from staff?
We've had a number of conversations associated with it, and we're going to be going forward with, hopefully going forward with the zoning review of that.
Okay. Could you explain the modifications while we're in the
Yes.
site plan?
So the modifications themselves are, first, it's for a reduction of parking. It requires 2 covered and 2 uncovered for the additional residential unit, as well as, and this is the other portion that we'll get to, and I've spoken with transportation about that, and they can support that modification specifically due to the size of this dwelling unit and the size of the existing house itself. They feel that the density is appropriate. The second modification is where there is a basement area that has a 7'6" ceiling height. We'd like to lower the basement by 18 inches to make that habitable space so that they can have a family room downstairs. And then this area, then a portion of that existing basement is in the front yard setback, so that is another modification that we're requesting, is work within the front yard setback. And then the third is the reduction of the open yard space. Due to the fact that we have 2 front yard setbacks, we're sort of minimized by the amount we can gain. We currently are providing 1,100 square feet of common open space instead of the required 1,250. So that was the third modification that we're requesting. If in fact we only had 1 front yard, we could have 1,400 square feet.
So you're 100 square feet short, is it?
150 square feet
150
short.
square feet.
That's correct.
Not including your deck?
Not including the deck.
But you are going to be rebuilding the deck?
Yes.
Okay. Then go ahead with the presentation.
Okay, so the first portion is the basement. What we're requesting to do is drop the basement floor 18 inches to make this sort of a habitable space. The upstairs area is quite contained, a little small, so we have an exterior, we have 2 exterior stairs currently from the yard below. We're requesting to remove one of the stairs, keep the secondary stair, and we have a sort of exterior sunroom patio that we would like to enclose in order to get stairs to go downstairs to make this one cohesive unit for the basement as well as first floor level. The downstairs portion would include a bathroom, family room area, a little office. That's about it. So what we would do is really pretty much maintain what is there, except for enclose it with some additional plaster walls, because right now there's a railing that goes around, and then do windows so it still maintains sort of an open feeling in that area without making it feel more dense or massive. Like I said, removing the stair that is currently right here and maintaining the existing stair that is there. No changes to the front elevation off of Salina Street. And all of this is mainly existing. We would just be doing a little bit of work in the upper area that's an open sunroom, making it more of an enclosed sunroom. And then the two-car garage downstairs, and then a single residential unit that would have one bedroom, 540 square feet, small kitchenette area, pitched roof to match the existing house, and the exterior elevations. We would have a rear stair so that we were minimizing impact to the neighbors, because the neighbors that are on the rear side, that actually is a parking area. Materials to match the existing house. A trellis off of the Mason side over the garage door to break up that elevation a little bit. Plaster to match the existing house. Wood windows.
Okay, that's it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, and then this driveway comes from high and it goes down. Is that it?
No, it's actually pretty much at the same level. It's because where it slopes, this area is kind of a flat pad as it stands. It slopes down towards this pad itself, but the driveway itself would stay pretty much a flat area.
From the street? Mm-hmm. So then this portion is now taller than the other existing house.
No. So
Am I understanding?
the site slopes from Salinas down.
Oh, so does the street? So
Yes.
does the street. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So Mason slopes as well. So this is
So
a pretty flat area. This
Okay, I
area
get it.
slopes down. So
I get
this
it.
is actually about 6 feet lower than this house.
Okay.
So it is
see.
actually lower.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then we have some speaker slips here, and I'd like to open it up for public comment now. We have, let's see, name was Elvira Tafuya, followed by Bill.
Yes.
Okay, Elvira first. Can you Can you come and sit here and on the mic? Would be great. Just so that we could, go right ahead.
I have two concerns. I'm the next door neighbor
Yes.
on Mason Street.
Oh, here, over here.
And
Okay.
are these, first, the concern, are there going to be any rental units? Second, the parking. Just to give you a little background, 5 years ago, there were 3 townhouses built across the street from my house. The owner sold 2, kept 1, and rented it. There was a public defender living there. He bought a house, and now there's 3 graduate students living there. So there's 3 cars. And then the second townhouse has been also rented. He wasn't sold. He has 3 other Brooke students living there. So the parking is a problem. And then across the street also there's a house, and they rent rooms. So more cars, and that's the only problem. That if it's going to be a rental unit, the problem is parking. At night, we can't find parking. That's on the street, on the street, because they don't use their garages or there's no accommodation. Okay, so that's all. It's going to be a rental unit, then she has enough space for even making more parking available.
Yeah.
But it's a pain to park, and I've lived there 37 years. I have a 2-car garage, a driveway. Actually, I'm the only one that uses the driveway. Everybody else parks on the street.
Yeah.
So that's my concern.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. I mean, just to let you know, our board is not able to, to make sure that it's not rented. That is something that staff will have to
Yeah,
to
that's
deal with
something,
and-
we live in Santa Barbara, I'm
Yeah.
aware of the situation. Like, I never expected those beautiful townhouses to be rented,
Right.
but they are. And again, I'm aware of the rental situation, and that the only way you can afford is to rent a room, and then 3 or 4 people have to do that. I'm aware of that, but again,
Whatever you- okay.
I want you to be aware of it, that
Parking is an
it's
issue.
not going to be another rental, because otherwise it'll be like 3 units there.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
that's it. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
This is democracy at work.
Bill, followed by Beth.
Well, thank you. Bill Jones.
Could you sit here before you start? Just
I'm a
Thanks.
neighbor here.
and where are you located, Bill?
Our home is in 255 Bonnie Lane, Santa Barbara, California. We've owned...
So how close are you to the project?
we're probably 10 minutes away. Our daughter...
Bill, we own the property next door
Oh, I see. Okay,
on Salinas.
Okay, that makes a difference.
right here. Okay, that's the key one. That's the key one. Thanks.
The adjoining property
Okay.
on the west side is our property, and we've probably owned it 25 or so years. Presently, there's a chain link fence running down it, and a chain link fence at the end of both properties. My questions are about where the parking is now. I got the impression from the speaker that presently the area behind the house, the car was coming in and parking on the property. I've never seen a car parked on the property there. There might be a gate, but I don't believe that presently right behind the home the car comes in and parks. I think it currently parks on the street. So that is one issue I have. I wanted to clear up when I read the drawing. I understood that on the rear of the rear building there was a 2-foot easement between the chain link fence and the new two-car garage with the 2 rental units on top. And I didn't know if that was correct at just 2 feet from that fence right there.
Is that right here? There's a 2-foot easement here?
Talking about the side?
No, what I'm talking about right now is right here.
So-
I didn't get that dimensions right there, and I got the impression that it was 2 feet and proposed 2 feet with the new duplex be completed. And I just questioned how close a building can be to a fence, a property line.
I think it's not showing an easement right now.
Well, there's another property on the other side.
Right, is the easement on their property?
No, perhaps I used the wrong word.
Setback.
I didn't know what the setback would
Setback
be
is.
from the property line to the building.
Yeah.
13 feet.
No, it looks
It's 13 feet from the property line to the
to
building.
the face of the building, but the building envelope setback is 5 feet away from the fence. So you're allowed to build up to 5 feet away from the fence?
It's actually 6 feet, but it's 6 feet for the setback itself, but we're providing parking that is uncovered there, which we encroach to the 3 foot, so 13 feet.
Also, this is an encroachment into the side yard, the rear yard setback, or side yard setback?
For flat work, the paving,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
that is correct.
Yeah,
Parking is allowed
But
within this. Okay.
There's no encroachment or no mod for any structure in.
I got the impression that presently at the principal house, that there's parking behind the principal house. I've never seen a car parked there. There's a gate, but that's my only comment on that. I think we're very interested in this property, and we look forward to your inspection of it, and that as we learn more about it.
Okay.
And I thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Beth?
Well, kind of, first of all, just to finish up with what Bill started, what is the setback on the side, on our side?
Right here? 8
Yeah.
feet 6 inches.
Pardon?
8 feet 6 inches.
Does that include the stairway?
The stairs are in within that 8 feet 6 inches.
So it's
They are
about
within 8
5
feet.
feet
So
6 inches away. The edge of the stair is about 5 feet 6 inches away from the fence.
And that, so it's not 8 feet, actually, it's 5 feet? Is
5
that-
feet.
5 feet
About 5
6
feet 6 inches.
For the structure of the stairs, which will be it's not going to be a fully enclosed stair, that will just be a sort of open stair feel. The building itself is 8'6", so the wall portion is 8 feet 6, the stair is 5 foot 6.
Okay, I have a hard time remembering all these numbers. Okay, my main question is, I don't know how this new building is lining up with our second apartment. And I want to make sure that the design, the windows, aren't, and the stairway, top of the stairway, aren't going to be in line with windows on the apartment.
You can review the plans. She can't answer. You're just here to speak right now.
Oh, okay.
And then you can talk to her later about that or review the plans. And she'll
Okay.
show
Well,
you.
for me to review plans, I don't see things, so.
But we'll
we'll ask those
be
questions
asking,
too.
because we'll be looking for the privacy issues.
Uh-huh.
So we'll ask for the documentation, and then
Okay.
you can review the drawings, and she should have the documentation that will
Uh-huh.
show that on the drawings.
Okay.
At
okay,
least in the next presentation, she should have that.
Okay.
I'll give you
And
my card after.
I think our other concerns are not this issue, not at this hearing, but water drainage issues, where do they enter into?
Where does it drain to? Where does their property drain
Where
to?
does that discussion come in? Does it come in a later review? You say this is a design review, so.
Well, planning should be addressing the drainage issues. This is a design issue, so we don't normally address it unless it looks really like something that's going to be a problem. But when it seems that this is almost flat and fairly close to level with the street, so it seems that they have a way to drain it. So we would let that rest on this board, and then planning should pick it up in a little bit more
Okay,
detail.
because we've had serious issues on our
With-
property that we addressed probably 2006, 2007 with drainage, dispersion trench and all of that. So we want to make sure that, and now it's fine. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that
It's not impacted.
it
Yeah.
doesn't factor into our property.
Okay,
So I guess that's it.
yeah.
Okay?
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
May I add something?
If you could be really quickly, come here, just a quick statement, that's all we need. Yeah.
Quick statement. Please don't get the impression that the property's level. It's not. The property.
We understand.
that.
We understand.
It falls.
Yes.
It falls at a grade and.
Yes,
and-
with the
and-
street.
With the street.
Yes.
And, for sure. And everything on it falls.
Okay.
As well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'd like to close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. And just before we bring it back to the board for questions, this is a 5-foot setback line that you have drawn here.
That's correct.
And so that's the setback on that side?
That is correct.
And then you have here this extending, the dark line extends inside of the 5, but then you have 6 here. What are those two lines?
I apologize, that's an error. That's supposed to be a 6-foot setback.
So this line's supposed to
Yes.
turn here, okay.
I apologize.
So you have a 5-foot side yard setback
Yes.
and a
And a
6-foot side yard setback?
That's what those were my comments.
I thought it was 6 on both sides, but
It might be 6 on both sides, and just because the existing building is there, that might be existing non-conforming within that 1 foot. But
so you might want to.
Based on what zoning had told me, but I will double check.
You should double check.
I will double check
because
with them.
otherwise you have
Because
another
now
mod.
Your step may need to have a mod for the step.
And what we would do is we would minimize this by 6 inches so that we stayed within.
Okay, so
I mean,
we
if
need to
it
get-
comes down to that, I'll make the
As long
the
as you
garage a
make
little
20,
bit-
20 by 20. So
Yes.
you have that issue too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And right now we have
Zero.
additional,
Okay.
yeah, we're a little over that.
Thanks. I'll bring it back to the board for questions. Gary?
One question I had, the existing driveway, is the apron existing to the
Yes.
back rear end of the property?
Yes.
Is that is that an apron for 2 properties?
No.
Or just one?
Just one.
And the ficus tree, what was your reason for removing the ficus tree?
It's not a very nice tree. They'd like to be creating a really nice garden in this area. Right now it's kind of a hodgepodge of stuff that's out there. They may relocate it, but it's not a really great specimen. It's a small tree.
Okay, and those are the only questions I have right now.
Thanks, Gary. Keith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On your statistics, you're indicating this is a flood zone, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, have you talked to building about the basement habitable space?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
enough said, thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Dawn?
I guess we'll look at the privacy issue that was brought up by one of the neighbors that I wanted everybody to look at. And even if nobody's parking in this area currently, you're proposing a 2-car garage and an uncovered parking space that's going to be accessible from Mason Street.
That is correct.
No questions.
Paul? Chris?
Thank you. How many trees are you proposing to remove? Is it just those 2?
Just those 2.
The ficus and the avocado?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, were you aware of the drainage issue with the neighbor? Or do you have plans?
Right now, there isn't actually a drainage problem that stands. I think that when we put in a secondary building, we'll need to address anything that happens in that area. But it drains just fine currently. I think when they put their building, if I understand correctly, they went through a lot of mitigation associated with drainage to ensure that they properly drained. This drains to the street currently, but we will be putting in some additional drainage to ensure that there is no impact to any of the neighbors.
Okay. And then it looks like there is no, there's no sidewalk along Mason right now on this property, is that right?
That's correct.
Are you designing towards the future of that having a sidewalk?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, just run over for me again the parking modification, your requirements and what you're proposing.
In order to have the secondary or accessory dwelling unit, the requirements for that space are, and the residential unit, it's 2 covered and 2 uncovered. Currently, we have what on record with the city is 1 covered space for this project. So what we would be proposing is 2 covered and 1 uncovered. So we would be missing 1 uncovered parking spot.
Oh, okay.
So we're creating 2 additional spots that aren't there to help with street parking issues and making sure that people can park there. I also wanted to clarify, this isn't going to be a
So
duplex.
you said you're creating 2
Yeah,
more.
yeah, yeah.
Wouldn't you be 1 less?
No, because they only have one
There's
covered right now. They only have 1 covered for this house.
Right.
They're proposing another covered and another uncovered, and they're moving this covered over there.
So currently on site, there's 1 parking spot.
Right.
We're proposing 3.
Right, but your requirement is 4.
Is 4, yes.
That's what I'm getting
Right.
at. So you're 1 under what your requirement
Yes,
is.
that is correct.
That's base of what
Yes.
I got again.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
correct.
Okay. Okay, so this is the extent. This is my question. This is the extent of the existing driveway. So
Yes.
this is what you're keeping. You're keeping this, adding that hardscape here.
That is correct.
Right? And then this still remains, or you're taking that
We're
gate
gonna
out
re-
and you're fencing that
We're
in?
going to fence that and remove all of the driveway that goes in there and make this all green open space in that
Okay.
whole area.
And this is meant to be a new hedge?
Yes, that's correct.
Going all the way around. Okay, and so where is the pathway that goes from this building to that building?
We haven't quite put that in there. I'm sure I'll do some, I haven't done landscaping or any of that at this point in time because I wanted to get some feedback before we go forward with full landscaping and full drawings since we are asking for modifications and we've been talking with planning for a number of months associated with it. So I'm sure we have stairs that go up in this direction, so I'm assuming we would have some nice walkway through that area.
And people that park here, where would they be their natural path to get to the house, since this parking is moving over here? Where would,
Well, we'll have, I mean, you can walk across either the driveway or back through here.
so they go around the stair that's here
That's correct.
to get to here. So the owners of this property walk around here.
Or here, Chris.
to get-
Or right
Oh,
through
here.
here.
Okay. All right. Okay, I bring it back to the board for comments. Gary?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm a little curious about this project here. I think there's some things that need to be resolved, like the staircase, I believe, is in the setback, and a little concerned about the amount of the modification for the parking, given that the neighborhood's overparked, and they're asking for a parking modification, and they're also asking for a potential of a couple of units. I mean, with the basement down below it, it's apparent that that could potentially be another unit as well. And I would be concerned about that. Also, I'd be concerned with whether you're allowed to do the basement in a flood zone, so that's kind of curious for me. And even if the staircase wasn't in the setback, on the south side of the house, I don't think it's the best place for it. I think it should be located either in the front, above the garage, perhaps, or something like that. So the height of the building is good. I don't think the mass bulk and scale is out of line. So everything else looks all okay.
Okay, thanks. Keith? Site plan?
So let's go through the mods first. I agree with Gary. I think, mass bulk and scale, the program you're asking for seems reasonable. I think the basement modification is really technical in nature and doesn't really affect the aesthetics since it's already existing built mass. So I think that's sort of a real technical one. Regarding the parking, I think it's pretty standard in the city if you have a unit that's less than 750 square feet to allow one parking space. So I think that's reasonable, particularly given the modest size of the proposed unit. The open space, I think we've seen these smaller corner lots all the time, and I think they are challenged given the dual setbacks, so I think that modification is reasonable. So then, given all that, looking at the planning of it, I think Gary's really right on, and I think that the orientation of this unit really needs to address the street more, so whoever lives there can come off the street or have visitors come off the street and find the entry and not have to kind of wander around the back here. And currently you'd have to, wind your way around through the parking, around the trash cans. So I think the stair needs to be somewhere else that's facing the street. Yeah, somewhere in here. And I realize that potentially aggravates your open space situation, but I think you need to get creative and figure out, since you do have more room here setback-wise, that needs to be studied. So, architecturally, I think what you're doing here is fine. I think the planning of this needs to be rethought so that you do address the street. And then the drawings do need to show the adjacent buildings and where their openings are so we can address the neighbors' concerns about potential privacy conflicts. So, big picture, I think the program seems reasonable. I think there's some planning issues on the orientation of the second unit that needs to be rethought. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Dawn?
I agree with Keith. That's it.
Thanks, Dawn.
And Gary.
Paul?
I think this project's moving in the right direction. A couple of comments, one having to do with the stairs and moving it to the other side. The building that you have right now is 23 feet wide. It really only needs to be 20 feet 8 inches, so you can make that building narrower and have your your stairs wrap on that side, makes your open yard smaller. But you explain to the staff hearing officer that's a direction ABR is going, because it enhances the livability of that unit. That's very important for us.
Okay.
The existing curb cut width, it'd be good to know the one that you're losing and the one that you're saving. And if the one that you're saving is extra wide, you could narrow that up. The one that you are getting rid of is a bonus, because now there's a possibility of shoehorning another car there as surface parking. So that's something that you should boldly show on your plans, that you are getting rid of that, and there's a possibility of reducing, or just show us that width. This is for later. I didn't quite understand the enclosed sunroom and saving the deck and rebuilding the deck, because when I look at the elevations, it didn't look like the whole deck was being shown. It looked like only about 4 feet. And so when you come back, the drawing should show the entire extent of deck to remain, and the posts that come down, and make sure they don't look too leggy if you're rebuilding it. And it also probably, however you're going to rebuild it. And other than that, I understand the project and the mods that you're requesting. In some regards, I think the mods need to get addressed before we spend too much time on the rest of the architecture, because if they're not addressed, then the project needs to get altered significantly.
Thanks. Thanks, Paul. Chris?
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. I don't have too much else to add. I would like for the next meeting to incorporate on the site plan the location of the neighboring structures, so we have an idea. We sort of talked about that, but and then basically, I agree with my colleagues here about the stairs, and I don't need to go into more detail about the garage, but I would like to see what's going to start to happen with the layout of the backyard. Obviously, that's sort of more my purview, so I'm curious as to what you're looking at there in terms of material and patios and such, and additional or existing trees. Beyond that, I don't really have much. I'm looking at the the layout of the driveway. I like that you're removing one, and the other one, I guess I'm thinking of if you're parking on that right side and trying to back out, you have to do a big S-curve in reverse, and that's a bit of a challenge, but it's just something to think about. But that's all I have, really, for comments.
Thanks, Chris. I agree with everyone, really. Mass, bulk, and scale is fine. I think that you have to look at just like they were saying, how this is organized with the steel, that sort of thing. What I would like to see, first I'll address, as Paul said, we don't want to go too far with talking about the modifications until you kind of go. Personally, I have no problem with you trying to get additional living space that is in the footprint that's going down. I mean, I think that that's what a lot of people should be doing, and I think if they could do that, it has no aesthetic impact. It doesn't increase the mass, bulk, and scale of the building. I would just say that make sure you could do that with the flood control. So I just want to say that for me, that's not an issue. I think what we'd like to see you in addressing these items before you come back is that when we want to tackle the actual architecture of the building, I would really like to see some more neighborhood photos other than the ones you just have of your building.
Sure.
So the buildings that are here and across the street, we'd like to see what those are. On your site plan, we'd like to see where the neighboring structures are, and then if you can show photographs of those buildings so that we could see where the windows are and how they would match up with yours. So that would be important. And then when you come back, clearly have your, make sure that you have your setback line figured out what it's supposed to be and have that clearly delineated here. And that's really about it, just a little bit more clarity on your site plan. And then we'll be able to address the actual details of the architecture. But I think mass, bulk, and scale is fine. And I'm open for a motion, and I see Keith taking notes.
Mr. Chair, I'll take the stab at it.
Thanks, Keith.
And I'll ask the applicant, would you prefer an indefinite continuance or 2 weeks or?
I think we'll probably have to do an indefinite because we're going to have to talk with staff further about the modifications and the
Fair enough.
ZIR hearing. So
this will be a indefinite continuance then back to full board
Yes.
with the following comments. The board feels that the modifications proposed have no aesthetic impacts. Applicant is to return with a site plan that shows the neighboring structures and the locations of their adjacent windows. Return with context photos of the adjacent structures and neighborhood context. Show trees on the site plan, including existing to be removed and any new proposed trees. Show the correct setbacks on the site plan. And applicant is to rethink the orientation of the new second floor unit to address the street with the entry. That's it.
Great. Do I have a second on that motion? Second by Gary. Under discussion, Keith, if what we'd also like to have too is composite elevations so that we see both buildings in their relationship to each other. And when you take the elevation going this way, if you could just show where the street line is, even though you show the full edge of the buildings going down, so we could see the relationship of the street line to the what you see of the house, even though you show the bottom part.
absolutely.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Against? That motion carries. Thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you again.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah.
Showing the existing curb out. Paul has some.
Oh, yes.
One thing to watch out if you're saving part of that overhanging deck because you may not be able to count the area below as your open space.
Yeah, I think that we had talked about that still being able to do because we were going to remove the driveway portion of it as long as there's post space. Yeah, if it goes away, it goes away. That's not.
Right. And with that, I'd like to adjourn the ABR for today, October 17th. Good night, Santa Barbara.